I went to grad school during the night and she worked during the day because we always required two people because she was also physically disabled. So right now I have a sister who was a teacher for 20 years, has a rare brain disease, is also disabled and in her early 50s and needs aids. And there's a really big crisis in terms of lack of enough aids and their lack of pay. And I would just implore you if there's a way that you can help and just have thoughts about how you might be able to address that issue.
No, absolutely. And when I talk about the $10 billion that we're looking to invest in healthcare workers across the board, we are including home care workers in that. We believe very strongly that we have to, reward the essential workers. I mean, a lot of us are still here because there were people who fought and got up out of their beds and went and took care of the sick. And that includes home care workers, one of whom is my older sister, who is, who knows of people who were taking care of patients who had COVID. So this is a very serious issue. We need to reward people, we need to give them bonuses, and we need to invest in more people. We need to grow our healthcare workforce by over 20% over the next 5 years. We have to invest in this. This is the top priority in our budget. And as you know, healthcare is usually healthcare and education, the two biggest spends in the state budget every year. We are going to do this, and we're going to be fair to those who work hard and keep us safe. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you for that and for sharing.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It looks like you have your hand up. And folks, if I'm not seeing you, please feel free to put it in the chat or something. I don't want to. Go ahead, Jesse.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you.
And I definitely understand the concern for the healthcare workers, but I am curious if the governor has a position on the proposed bill to set up a fund for nursing home abuse victims. My daughter's just wants to get in on this. On the proposed bill for nursing home victims who would be barred from proceeding with the lawsuit because of the COVID immunity statute that was passed, ultimately repealed. And I know that's the bill. The bill I'm referring to is the one that was introduced by Assemblyman Kim.
Yes, I do not have an answer for you on that, but what I will do is I will speak to the governor and our policy team, and I will get that information to Tyler and back to you. Sorry, I don't have an answer on that, but I will look to get one for you shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see Aaron, looks like you have a question. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, Lieutenant Governor.
Hey, Aaron.
Good to see you.
You as well.
You look great. Going back to what you just said in response to that first question, I've been having lots of discussions with parents of young kids, of which I am one, where the kids aren't old enough to be vaccinated. And it made me think about essential workers. And essential workers actually, I think, should also include parents of young kids who can't be vaccinated. And it's not really a question. I think just more thinking about perhaps a bit of a paradigm shift as we consider policies for, some sort of, I can't even think of what, but I think maybe just not to leave them behind as we consider a world where COVID is just not going away the way I think we all want it to. It's a real struggle for us. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and it's great to see you, and thank you for everything you've been doing for the state.
No, thank you, Aaron. I have two young daughters as well. My 3-year-old is right now in childcare, and it's a scary thing. Just a week and a half ago, one of her classmates had COVID, and so the school alerted us, and we had to rush to the hospital to get tested because obviously, our 3-year-old and I have a 3-month-old. Neither of them obviously can be vaccinated, so it is a very nerve-wracking thing. So I understand the concern. That's why we fight so hard to try to get everyone vaccinated, boosted. We're continuing with the mask mandates because, we believe, and the data shows that if individuals are vaccinated, boosted, that is our best defense to try to get COVID closer to a common cold or to the flu as anything else. And hospitalizations and deaths are just are much lower in those who are vaccinated. And look, it's tough. It's scary as a parent, but we're doing the best we can. And trust me, I keep that top of mind when we're having our health meetings and conversations, because I have 2 children who I'm worried about just as much as you are worried about your children.
Right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. Jason, looks like you have a question. And then Joanne, I'll read the one. I know you put one in the chat as well.
Hey, yeah, I just really wanted to make a sort of encouraging observation. Under the previous administration, I think it's the Governor Cuomo famously had lots of tension with the mayor and with the city, and it always felt like it was an impossible relationship and impossible to get anything done. And I just wanted to sort of recognize that Governor Hochul and your administration has seemed to work a lot better, and appear, they don't have dueling press conferences when there's an emergency and that sort of stuff. And so I just want to note that is really appreciated, and sort of encourage you guys to keep that up, because it's a huge change in dynamics from the previous administration, a very welcome one.
And let me give you a thank you for that, Jason. And let me give you a quick example of how that's so useful. So I was yesterday in a meeting with 8 other states where we're going, we have an interstate gun tracing consortium. And it was so important that the other states that were there, we had New Hampshire, we had Massachusetts, we had Pennsylvania, we had New Jersey, a lot of the neighboring states, including Ohio. And one of the things that was a key part of the conversation was talking about the cooperation between the NYPD and the state police around some of the activity of guns being moved in New York State, and just how that just made the room just feel more free to open up. And now we're moving to a place where multiple states are going to start sharing data real time, so that if someone has a gun in a New York car in Pennsylvania, New York will know about it, and vice versa. It was a very powerful thing. So in addition to it just looking and feeling better, there are also real life benefits of that. And there are a number of agencies who have said, I was never allowed to call the state. So that the New York City Health Department wasn't talking to the New York State Health Department. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. So really unfortunate stuff. But now we're working together, and that is coming right from the top, which is making life easier for us to deal with some of our key problems. And as you talk about infrastructure, I think I see Joanne asked about the BQE. You talk about the Interborough Express that we're looking to bring. You talk about a number of issues. There's state and city at the same time that's driving those parameters. And so for us to be able to have a good relationship with the city is paramount.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it looks like I think we have time for one more question, and I'll read the question that Joanne put in there. And the question is, when will the state speak to us about the BQE? This was, an issue we have with the prior administration, and we want to make sure we get the ball rolling on some of that federal money.
Yeah. So my understanding, I've had conversations with the MTA about this, Assemblywoman, is there's a feasibility study that is coming on sort of the future and what will be possible with the BQE. As you know, it'll be expensive, but it's something that is very important. And I'm sorry, that was the Crossmark Expressway. I'm sorry. On the BQE, let's talk about that, Joanne, because I'm not as familiar with where the exact what the exact issue is that you're referring to. If you don't mind, we can talk offline about that. But I'm obviously happy to push on that.
Okay, hold on. I think I'm going to actually just scroll down and unmute Joanne.
Sorry about that, Joanne.
No.
That's okay. I just, if I can, I appreciate that this is kind of nerd city a little bit, but
okay.
We have a very dangerous stretch of the BQE that is, in danger of falling off a cliff. I've spoken to your office, and in fact, Sharon Paul has gotten back to me. I did talk to the governor about it. I did talk to Kathy Garcia about it. There's this issue of who owns what part of the roadway, but overall, it's an interstate highway. The state has to be the lead agent, yada, yada, yada. And there's a real concern that this federal money will pass us by because there's no plan, but there's no plan because there was nobody to do the plan. And there was no cooperation with the state, was absolutely asleep at the switch previously. So we need to have some sort of getting together very quickly and figuring out an approach that approaches a plan enough to be able to get some money for it, because otherwise, it's going to take years to do, right? But we have to get that rolling. So that's why I'm a little antsy about it.
Understood. I apologize because in my brain I was just having a meeting on the Cross Bronx Expressway, so I apologize. I started talking about the plan there.
Right.
I'm sorry about that. I will. I'll call you tomorrow. Let me talk. Oh, please, Dan, don't beat me up. I got a little confused in my head. But no, I will talk internally, and I'll call you tomorrow if that's okay.
Great. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin. We really appreciate it, and thanks for responding to all our questions. I think you mentioned you would follow up with me on something, so I will have my my inbox open. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Awesome. So I think we have a few more minutes before our next guest, Attorney General Letitia James, is scheduled to join us. I think we do have an elected who just spoke to us, Assemblywoman Joanne Simon. Is there any other Albany updates you'd like to give? And before you start, just let me say, if anyone, again, is still having trouble and did not receive a sample ballot or has some kind of a payment voting issue, let's work those out now. Reach out to us. We'll try to get that figured out. Thanks. And Joanne, can you unmute, or do you need
to let me?
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay. Yay, I passed my dyslexia screening in correctional facilities bill this week. I've passed it 4 times, Zellner. It's on to the Senate. And but it's really important thing to do, and we're making progress on a lot of that issues. We had a 12-hour education budget hearing yesterday, and obviously last night as well. That was remarkable in many ways for the forthcomingness of both the state commissioner on a number of the issues that I care most about. And also the new schools chancellor testified, and he and I are going to be following up on a couple of things as well. And the state commissioner we had her on this hot seat for 4 hours, and he only had about 2.5, so he got off easy. But he only has the city to worry about it, not the whole state. And then we heard from a number of other people. Obviously, COVID is a big issue. The issues of the permutations of COVID, the mask mandate kinds of issues that come up in different parts of the state in terms of schools, and an overriding desire to keep kids safe that was very present. The other issue I just want to mention, because I know we've talked about it, and we had conference today scheduled at 10 a.m. To discuss possible redistricting lines. Then it was 12, then it was 6. And then at 6, they texted us and said, go home, we'll call you tomorrow. So that's where we are.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'm happy to answer a question if there's time and you need to fill space.
Well, yeah, sure. If anyone can feel free to raise your hand if you do have a question for Assemblywoman Simon. There's always a lot going on, and I hope that this dyslexia bill sails through the Assembly without issue, or the Senate rather, without issue. Joan, I see you have your hand up.
You may have to unmute her.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding her on my list.
I got her. So, Joan.
Oh, you got, thanks, Alyssa. Alyssa found me. Joanne, we've been hearing rumors from different boards of election in the city that because of the time crunch, because there's no bill yet authorizing, the new lines, as you just spoke about, but that they may this year not do county committee because they won't have time to draw ED lines. Do you know anything about that? Could you comment?
I know nothing about it. I'm hearing this first from you. I don't know how they don't do county committee, but I'm sure we can find some way of delaying that, legislatively if necessary. I sure don't want to switch to an odd year county committee thing if possible, because it's just so much easier to do it all at once, even though it's a pain in the neck. It'll always be a pain in the neck in terms of volume because we have so many EDs, and even after redistricting, we will still have a lot of EDs. So, and a lot of voters. We have a high vote count, so that's how that is affected.
Robert Carroll.
So I haven't heard that. Anything is possible. I expect that we will have that bill and be able to vote on it next week. I just don't right now, haven't seen, like my map or, and I know that they have not spoken to a lot of people. And so they didn't want to keep everybody hanging around here till, 2 in the morning or something to show you maps. So I expect that we will have that in hand next week. And then we'll take it from there. So, I've heard story that we might end up delaying petitioning a little bit. Again, I have no information on that. It's something I've heard.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And thank you everyone for your questions. I wanted to shout out, I do see Judge Ann Swern here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for providing this form. It's great. It's so informative. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm learning as I go as well. With that, I believe we are perfectly on time to be joined by the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. Attorney General Letitia James is the first woman of color to hold statewide office in New York.
You're not going to read that, are you? Just say, it's Tish, everybody knows.
I want to give you the introduction that people want to hear.
No, they don't want to hear that. Trust me, Ty. I know I
okay. That is well within your right to decline my thoroughly impromptu introduction. Welcome to IND, Attorney General Letitia James. We have 5 to 6 minutes for candidates, and our Vice President Danielle Zuckerman will hold up her sign, which you may see there, a 1 minute warning when we've got 1 more minute left. And then if you have time, we'll take some questions. Welcome to IND.
Thank you, Tyler. And thank you I'm sure the introduction would have been lovely. I'm sure your presentation would have been fabulous. I really appreciate it.
It was an epic poem.
It was, I'm sure it was. But I'm no stranger to IND, and I just really want to thank you. And of course, it's great to see some of my friends, Assemblywoman Millman, Assemblywoman Simon, and of course, Judge Swern. Thank you so much for all that you do and for your service. I want to thank all of you for your consistent engagement and advocacy on so many issues, so many progressive and democratic issues. And I want to thank all of you for learning to campaign virtually. And while we can never substitute being in a room together as one, I'm happy that we can still meet and we can discuss how we can make this state a safer state and a state where we can address the needs of all New Yorkers. Because today we're living in times that test the soul of all of us. Let us take a moment to think about Officer Rivera and Officer Mora. Officer Rivera, who will be funeralized tomorrow. I will be attending that funeral. And Officer Mora next week. They, made the ultimate sacrifice, and we mourn them. But their families should be comforted by the fact that all of us feel their pain, and all of us again hold them up as heroes. And so may they rest in peace. We are living in times that test us. We have got a multifaceted housing crisis. We've got a deadly pandemic, and that has taken away our family members and our friends and has wrecked our economy. We are all engaging in the struggle for racial justice and to free our communities torn apart by gun violence. The threats to our environment are not existential threats, they're real threats. Climate change is real, science is real, We have a struggle for democracy itself, a fighting over the voting rights, which is unfortunately, it's an element of it's basic to our democracy, and it's unfortunate that we continue to have a fight over the Voting Rights Act and serve and place in the way of individuals who are basically seeking to have their voices heard at the ballot box and denying them that basic right. And also, we continue to fight on reproductive rights in this day and age. As the Attorney General of the state of New York, I basically took a vow almost 3 years ago to use the law both as a sword and as a shield to stand up for the rights for New Yorkers. And under the last administration, our previous president, I stood up and defended democracy across this nation, standing with California, serving as bookends. As the Attorney General, we have also filed the most comprehensive lawsuits against drug manufacturers and drug distributors for fueling the opioid epidemic. And we've delivered $1.5 billion to communities most impacted by the crisis. We have taken on bullies and harassers from the Trump administration to the NRA. We have taken on individuals who have engaged in sexual harassment of women, from women in the workplace, in the private setting, also to women who have been harassed in government as well, and individuals in the retail and restaurant business. I intend to finish the job and to continue fighting for all New Yorkers and for equality itself, defending the right to vote in every corner of our state. And despite the fact that we live in a blue state, the reality is we've had to bring some cases to defend the right to vote in upstate New York. We've had to bring cases against some individuals on a woman's right to choose right here in the city, where individuals stand in front of Planned Parenthood and they harass victims. We've had to establish border barriers. We were successful in that area and in parts of upstate New York. We've protected individuals' consumers' rights, particularly now during the COVID and Omicron, where individuals are going to testing sites to be tested based upon advertisement, which suggests that they can get tests within 24 hours, when in fact they're getting it oftentimes at a week's end, which is inconsistent with their advertising and represents misrepresentation. And so we've gone after a number of those centers as well. We have been fighting for clean air and fighting for clean energy and a planet that will survive for generations to come. And joining with all of you, we continue to ensure free and fair elections here in the city and state, and issues such as housing issues, healthcare issues, and issues affecting our immigrant community. So, because of this wonderful club, all of you deserve to be fiercely protected. Your rights need to be defended. And I made a commitment to all of you 3 years and 1 month ago. And I also made that commitment as a former city council member and as a public advocate, now as the Attorney General. I will never stop fighting for you, protecting the rights of the vulnerable, marginalized, and all New Yorkers, because that's basically all that I know. It's part of who I am. It's my reason for being. And it has been an honor and a privilege to serve you as the Attorney General. I hope and pray that you will support me going forward in my reelection effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney General James. I believe, like we talked about before, folks, if you have a question, please raise your hand using the little feature. And if I don't see you, which I'm always nervous about, please just type it in the chat. Hal, it looks like you have your hand up. You have a question?
Yes, I understand, Madam Attorney General, that you may not be able to say anything about this, but if you could say anything about the timeline of the progress of the investigation you're conducting against a certain former president characterized by his orange hair. I think it's for tax evasion. Can you say anything about what's happening with this investigation?
Sure. What I can say is the following. There are 2 cases and they're running along parallel tracks. There's a criminal case where I'm working with the Manhattan District Attorney, Kyle Bragg, where we've indicted the former chief financial officer, Mr. Weisselberg, and we've also indicted the organization for failing to report income on their taxes. That case is proceeding forward. Second, we have a civil case against a Trump organization where we have compelled the testimony of some, and the former president and his family members are refusing to testify with respect to gaining certain information as it relates to whether or not they engaged in devaluing their property for the benefit of getting loans, getting insurance, and then that same property or inflating that property for the purposes of getting loans from insurance company and from banks, et cetera, and then deflating that same property for the purposes of evading taxes. And right now we're in the midst of compelling the testimony of the former president, his daughter and his son. Eric Trump did come in and testify. He basically took the fifth. And as you know, President Trump is one to engage in delay tactics and use the courts as a mean to evade responsibility, but he cannot evade the responsibility from the Office of Attorney General, who is only engaging in an investigation to determine whether or not he violated the law, consistent, again, following the testimony of Michael Cohen, who basically laid out a scheme that we need to investigate.
Thank you, Madam Attorney General. I have very full confidence that if there's anything there, you're going to find it and you'll take whatever action you need to take.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well said. I have a question from the chat, and I'm going to just read this because I don't know exactly what all of these refer to. Is there any views or updates on New York RPA versus Bruin? Should SCOTUS rule in favor of NYRPA, and what does the state intend to do to keep gun violence low in our state and counter this?
So there's a case pending before the United States Supreme Court, and the decision will come out any day. It's in regards to our carry law. In order to carry a gun in the city of New York, one needs to follow certain requirements. There's certain requirements in order for one to carry a gun in the city of New York. The gun lobby has basically filed a lawsuit and challenging that statute, basically indicating and arguing that it's in violation of their Second Amendment rights. Based upon the colloquy before the Supreme Court and given the composition of the United States Supreme Court, I'm afraid that statute will be declared unconstitutional, which means that individuals can carry guns, which is just, given the gun violence that we are seeing in the city of New York, it's just unconscionable. So I'm very much concerned about that. The reality is that 85% of the guns recovered in New York City and New York State come from states with lax gun laws. They come from states along I-95, otherwise known as the Iron Pipeline. And most of these states have lax gun laws. You saw the case today in the Bronx, where an individual, this young college student, basically purchased guns from another state, put them in a duffel bag, and brought them to New York on the Greyhound. He was arrested today. But unfortunately, this is a regular occurrence. There's an overproliferation of guns, and the number of guns that have been sold, particularly during this pandemic, is alarming. And I would argue that there's a direct correlation between the fact that we do not have responsible gun laws, because we have a Congress which is refusing to take action, and this increase in guns and gangs in the city and the state of New York. I'm working with ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, working with the governor of the state of New York, working with the mayor, working with attorneys general and law enforcement officers all across the state of New York to address this. As the Attorney General, as of today, we have recovered over 2,000 guns through gun buybacks. My OCTF, which is my Organized Crime Task Force, we've taken down gangs. We've engaged in some arrests of individuals who've engaged in gun trafficking and drug trafficking. And we've gone after individuals on the internet who have been selling parts to assemble to make ghost guns, which are unregulated guns. We've also asked ATF as well as Congress to basically consider and to pass laws that regulate ghost guns as firearms, and currently they are not. In the state of New York, we treat them again as firearms, but again, when it comes to gun violence, guns know no borders, and we are seeing more and more individuals engage in gun trafficking. And that's why law enforcement and the state legislature and state elected officials, including your assembly member. We're working together to crack down on gun trafficking in the state of New York.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more. Joan, I see you have your hand up.
Sorry, I think I muted you while you,
yes.
My bad.
No, that's all right. Thank you. Attorney General, today I heard our president make a statement that he's going to honor his commitment that he made during the campaign. And that's if given the choice, he would select a woman of color to serve on the Supreme Court. And so that was really, really good to hear him say that. And I'm just wondering if perhaps you knew or had any opinion about, if you could express it, any of the couple of women who have been, I saw an article today in the newspaper, and they all seem very qualified, but certainly I have no way of knowing. I don't know any of them. And I think they all could be good choices, but if you had anything you might want to add to that discussion.
Yeah, I know two of the candidates. There's one, Cheryl Ifill, who is the former counsel to the NAACP, who is absolutely brilliant and amazing. She would be a breath of fresh air in the spirit of Thurgood Marshall. Specifically as what President Biden said in South Carolina, that he was specifically looking to appoint a Black woman. Miss Jackson, Judge Jackson, on the DC circuit would also make a fine candidate, a graduate of Harvard, and just recently received bipartisan support. And so she already has been vetted and would probably, I think, is probably the most likely candidate. So we shall see. All I know is that I'm not a contender. I'm not a candidate. I look forward to serving as your next Attorney General.
Well, we're glad to have you, Tish.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I will put the intro that I wrote for you on my blog.
Thank you, Tyler. Take care, everybody.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We are now pleased to be joined by New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, who has served as New York City's public advocate since 2019. Before that, he represented Brooklyn's 45th City Council District, including Flatbush, East Flatbush, Midwood, Flatlands, and Kensington, from 2009 to 2019. Mr. Public Advocate, feel free to, I'm not sure if I can see you on the screen, but we'll have 5 minutes, and then our Vice President, Danielle, will hold up a sign telling you have 1 more minute, and then we'll take some questions if you have time. There's the sign. Welcome to IND, Mr. Jumaane Williams.
Thank you so much. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone. Thank you, Tyler, Danielle, the entire board, Elissa, incoming president, Jesse and Josh, district leaders, and I believe I saw Joanne Simon on here. Shout out to my colleague in government, of course, Emeritus Joan Milburn, and everyone here. Thank you so much. As mentioned, I'm the public advocate, City of New York, running to be governor of the state of New York. A community organizer by training. I was before Barack Obama, so no one had any idea what it was. And my mother asked me to please get a real job. I had to explain to her that it actually was a real job. I ran for city council against an incumbent with 6 people in the race. It would not be the last time I was called crazy. I ran and we won. I've been trying to shake things up ever since. I was told I had to choose between being an activist and an elected official. I said, no, I don't. The best elected officials are activists. And we sought to show that you can get things done even if you're in the street. So I will just say I'm so proud to have passed 70 pieces of legislation. When I left the city council, I was listed as the most productive council member. As public advocate, we've passed more pieces of legislation than any public advocate before us, showing that we can figure out how to make government work and hold on to our values. When I ran for lieutenant governor in 2018, again, I was told crazy, but I said we need to have someone that's going to stand up for the things that we care about, from housing to healthcare to public safety. That's going to have the courage to say when our governor is doing something wrong. And we all know there was so many things going wrong. One of the things that troubles me is when I hear people say we have to go back to normal. Because normal didn't work for most of us on this call and didn't work for most people in New York State. We lost tens of thousands of people as we became the epicenter of this state, the one thing we can do in their memory is not return to normal. And I was told that we had no pathway, no way to do it back then. But we rolled up our sleeves and we got it done, even with a bigger gap in fundraising than we have now. And we got 47% of the vote across the state, 55% in the city. We got more votes than any non-white candidate ever in the state of New York. We got more votes, the third most votes than anyone in the state of New York. Unfortunately for me, the first two were the then governor and the lieutenant governor, but I still think it was a pretty awesome showing. And I'm so proud of AD 52. They have supported me outright in every election that I've run, including the public advocates race, including the lieutenant governor's race. And clubs like this are the backbone of communities. And so it means a lot to be able to speak in front of you. And it means so much that the AD has always come out for me. You know, right now, when I listened to the State of the State address, it was a good address, it was decent, but for me, it could have been given before the pandemic. And it didn't match the moment that we were in. And when I heard the discussion about housing, the eviction moratorium has been let go without good cause. People are going through foreclosure. When I hear someone saying we have 100,000 units that we need to preserve or build across the state, and I'm like, that's not even enough for our borough, and much less the state. It says to me, we either don't understand the grasp of it, or we simply don't have the courage to move it forward. And it troubles me when I hear the governor saying that we won't even entertain any revenue raising options. It means that we may not get the housing that we need. We may not get health care for all. There's so many things that we struggled with before this pandemic. We have an opportunity to do it better now. And, you know, I'm asking folks to join me in showing New York what's possible, because we know what's possible. And lastly, there's no way to deny the historic nature of this governorship and what it means. But I'd also say either way, there would be historic nature. Unfortunately, we've never had an elected woman. We've never had an elected Black person as governor. So it's historic in many ways. But I think we have to have someone, irrespective of their identity, who has shown the courage to be able to stand up, even when there are powerful peoples in the way, and has shown the ability to actually get things done in government. And the reason I'm running is because I'm proud of the advocacy work that we've done, but I think we need someone in the position who's going to move the levers in the direction that we need for all of New York. And I believe our campaign represents that. So I'm asking IND to join us, and hopefully the district, once again, to show New Yorkers, help them see what's possible in the state of New York and from Albany. I'll just end with saying it's obviously glad that we got rid of the former governor. But there's a lot of muscle memory in Albany, and we're going to need help loosening that up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. I'm getting notifications that my internet's unstable, so if folks can't hear me, please send me a text, I guess. But does anyone have any questions for Lieutenant Governor Jumaane Williams? Here, I have one from Greg, I believe. Greg, I'm going to read your question. Mayor Adams recently unveiled his plan to combat surging gun violence and subway crime. The New York Times article coverage briefly mentioned your own anti-crime plan, but neglected to describe the specifics. Can you describe them here and how your plans maybe compare or contrast to Mayor Adams' recently released plan?
Can I know how many minutes I have to answer that question?
Such a great clarifier. I think we have 9 more minutes total, but maybe there'll be other questions as well.
No, because public safety is really important. And I'm not proud to be one of the leading voices on public safety for over a decade. In 2012, as the chair of the task force to combat gun violence, I put out a report. It's taken 3 mayors to really take that report seriously. Thankfully, the previous mayor, we went from a pilot program of 5 in the crisis management system to almost $80 million, and that's thanks to the previous mayor. But what we didn't have was a mayor who really believed in the plan to make public safety a lot more holistic. And what I always say is we can't equate public safety with policing. That's not equatable. We do understand that our law enforcement has a very real role to play. It's a risky role to play. We have to honor that with accountability and transparency, while understanding that gun violence is really on the rise. And so we agree that gun violence is supply. There's just too much guns coming in. So there's a lot of alignment in making sure that we have an interagency task force to deal with those guns coming in. Hopefully Congress changes some of the rules, the laws. But the demand side is where we can do so much better. And where I tell folks is, think of a community that you deem as safe, and everybody would think of a community. What they don't think of is a police officer on every corner, and they don't think of a police siren going around 24/7. That's not because they don't have a role to play. It's because those communities have certain resources and structures that help that community be safe. And so what our plan does, it gets to those resources. This is not an excuse for accountability. You can't shoot and kill police officers. You can't shoot and kill a woman who's going to work to Burger King. You can't shoot a baby and make her spend her first birthday in surgery. There has to be accountability for that. But what we do know is we can't spend all of the funding on the accountability and not on the prevention that we know will work. We got to 2018, we were the safest we'd ever been. If you're a victim of crime, data means absolutely nothing to you. But what we do know is what we were doing was working at that time. We said, let's increase our summer youth jobs. Let's get these crisis management system running so we can get some mental health services, some legal services, and some jobs to the communities that need it. The crime and the gun violence dropped more in those districts that had these programs than the districts who were, than the city as a whole. What we said is, why is not a whole lot of agencies looking at the same data so that they can provide the services they need? The 30 precincts where they're going to be focusing law enforcement, what are the other agencies doing to focus on it? Where are the community groups? Are they at the adult table with NYPD so they can show what they can do as well? Or are they on the side? And so we have a full menu of items that we're trying to do and we're trying to fund and we're trying to structuralize in a way, including opening up CommStat so it's not just police who are there, including embedding crisis management system folks into the Department of Education, into Rikers Island, into other agencies so that folks can work together and we can intervene and interrupt the public health crisis that is violence. On the state level, the former governor almost got this right. He withheld funds and demanded that localities and municipalities gave him a policing plan. We begged and pleaded and said, that is wrong. You don't need a policing plan, you need a public safety plan, of which accountability and transparency is a part of. They didn't do it. The state can do that right now. When I travel the state, the localities are dealing with similar issues of public safety. We can be organizing together, and we've tried to do that because we know that bullets don't know any boundaries, but it's hard to do as the public advocate. As governor, this issue I've been working on to understand the dynamics of it, can provide the resources where they need to be, can understand the role that law enforcement has to play, also understands that none of the crimes that I described had anything to do with bail reform. And so what we need to do is make sure we're all looking at the same information and ascertaining that what's real. Lastly, the best way I can put this is around the discussion that were about defund the police. And I tell folks, find one video, not two, but one of me saying defund the police. You won't, because I didn't think that was probably the best messaging. But what I found in our leaders, particularly on the Democratic side, is we didn't have the courage to have a conversation. What we should have been saying is our job is not to tell people who are in pain how to express that pain and trauma in the streets. Our job is to take that pain and trauma and turn it into real, workable, evidence-based solutions. And instead, we decided to join the fear-mongering of the Republicans instead of taking leadership in this conversation. I have a lot of success around this conversation. I understand what's going on. I think I'm uniquely situated. I've been Black for a long time, and I've unfortunately had some interactions with police. I have some people who are no longer here who killed with gun violence. Just this past summer, a bullet went through my mother's car as it sat in her driveway. I praise God no one was there. These issues are very real to me, and we have very real solutions, and I'm happy to share the plan with you if you'd like to see more. It's our Public Safety Plan 2.0, 2 plans we put out since I became public advocate. Took 10 years to get us here. So there's some real issues with Eric Adams' plan, but there's some real points of alignment that I'm hoping the media will play up as well, and some real possibilities for us going forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone? There's a few more minutes here we have. Ken, I see you have your hand up.
Sure. Thanks, Public Advocate Williams. I wanted to talk about another issue that we have on our streets. Just this year, it's not even the end of January, and 9 people have died on New York City streets from traffic violence. And, you know, in Manhattan, they're going to have congestion pricing, which will hopefully reduce the amount of cars on the road. But, you know, for even still in that zone and for people elsewhere, what can we be doing on the state level to help curb traffic violence? I know there was a package of bills that was rolled out today by folks like Transportation Alternatives and Families for Safe Streets. But I'm just wondering if you can comment on your approach to that.
I've come a long way on this issue, by the way. Folks may know I had some issues. I come from my district was a driving district. And when I began, I'm a big bike rider now. And when I started riding my bike, it was a whole new world to me and a whole new perspective. And I really saw things that I hadn't seen before. And, you know, even though I came from a driving community, I have been supporting congestion pricing for a very long time. My constituents weren't very happy with me, but I've learned that the position I hold, you know, is not more important than doing what's right for the people I'm representing in the city. We do have to move congestion pricing a lot faster than is listed here. That's one thing that we have to do. I have tried to have a conversation with this around system of privilege. And usually the people with privilege have a little trouble giving it up. But the most privileged people on that road is me when I'm driving. And I'm protected in steel. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of protection for that. And we just have to be mindful. We have to share the road in a real way, in a way we didn't. And there's too much real estate for the car right now. So we have to build, for instance, protected bike lanes, which I've been supportive of. Riding a bike is scary in New York City, and we don't have enough protected bike lanes. That's something I may not have understood until I started getting on my bike and riding around. I haven't seen that package of legislation that you talk about. I want to take a look at it. I also supported, you know, enforcement, and when the speed cameras came out, again, I had trouble getting support from my district. I also had some other trouble attached with it, but I also supported making sure that we had those speed cameras there so people can understand that there has to be consequences for that. I supported in the council when they passed the bill to try to take people's license if they reach a certain amount. So I do think, you know, enforcement is important. I don't know that it has to be heavily police involved enforcement, but we have to change our thinking, and we really have to change the way the road is structured. It was structured for vehicles. That time has changed. And what we do have to do is make sure that we have the money to build out the infrastructure that's needed for everybody who uses that. People on bikes, people in wheelchairs, people who are walking, all New Yorkers. And that's going to take a hefty lift, but I think we can get it done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, for joining IND today. We've really appreciated your thoughts and responding to all our questions.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate, of course, the entire AD that always comes out. And I'd be honored to earn your support and happy to answer any additional questions. We do have an uphill road, but most of my hills have always been uphill, and we've done pretty well. And I'm feeling that energy again. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, very much. Now, I believe, though I think the name doesn't totally indicate it, we are pleased to be joined by Senator Chuck Schumer. First elected to the U.S. Senate in 1998, Senator Schumer has served as the leader of the Democratic caucus since 2016 and the Senate Majority Leader since January of 2021. Prior to his service in the U.S. Senate, he was a congressman from New York's 9th Congressional District. Senator Schumer, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh.
That's Iris Weinschall, another member of your constituency, and my wife. That's what it says.
Well, welcome to you and to both of you. We'd love to hear from you for 5 or 6 minutes here. My Vice President Danielle will hold up a little 1-minute sign, and then if you have time, we'll take some more questions after that. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to IND.
Well, thank you, Tyler, and I want to thank you and Danielle, your first Vice President, and your district leaders, Jesse Pierce, Josh Scaller. So many people I know in this club. I go way back from Eileen Dugan and Joan Millman, and of course now Joanne Simon. You got 2 new great council members, Lincoln Ressler, Shahana Hanif. It's a great club, and we've had a long association with it, and it's my home district. I live here, my wife lives here, My daughter and son-in-law and grandson live in your district. My other daughter and her wife live in your district. So the whole Schumer family is part of the IND community. And so we know it well. And I thank everybody here for their involvement. I know people are busy with their lives, jobs, families, the ups and downs of life that is visited on every one of us. But you are the antidote. All the people who are trying to hurt this country, and there are so many now, the best antidote is the active participation and progressive leadership that this club has shown. So I very much appreciate your involvement, and I very much appreciate the relationship that this club and I have had for a very, very long time. Let me start out with a brief word on voting rights, because I know that's on people's minds. We will persist. Voting rights is the core of what the American democracy is. And it's the thing that is most important for so many. You know, I read the book Grant by Chernow, who may be a resident of your district. I don't know, of the 52nd. I don't know if he is. Yes, Joanne is saying he is. When the slaves were freed, the white Southern bigots, the number one thing they wanted to take and prevent them from having was the right to vote. More than money, more than land, more than power, because they more than anything else, because they knew this was political power. And we've had a long march on voting rights. You know, when the Constitution was formed, in most states, you had to be a white male Protestant property owner to vote. Raise your hand if you're on the Zoom, if you would have been able to vote. Very few. So it's a long trek with many steps forward and some steps back. And I believe it's vital, and we are going to keep fighting till we win. When we started out this fight, we knew we had to change the rules, which is, you know, not done. It's done occasionally, but not that often in the Senate, because we'd get no Republican votes. When we started out, we had only 25 Democrats willing to change the rules. I worked and worked and worked, and we got up to 48. But you will see more action from us on voting rights, and we are not giving up till we win. Martin Luther King didn't give up in 1964 when the Congress refused to pass voting rights, and he got it passed in 1965. So he's an inspiration. John Lewis is an inspiration. And frankly, my father is an inspiration. He passed away 2 months ago, but he always told me, if you do the right thing and persist, you will be rewarded. And he's sitting here right here, even though he's gone, telling me that all the time. On the Supreme Court, bottom line, as you probably heard me say, we are going to get this done quickly and strongly. I am optimistic we will get a good, strong, progressive nominee on the court. I told the president early on he ought to have a Black woman on the court. We've never had one. And he's done that. He announced it today. By the way, it shows you my track record ain't bad. I whispered to Barack Obama he ought to appoint Sonia Sotomayor as the first Latina on the court. And I don't know if it was just me, but he did it. So we're going to do that. And another thing we've accomplished, which people forget, and we got to focus on some of our accomplishments, please, and that is diversifying the justice system. You know, Trump put these awful right-wing bigots on the bench, so many of them bigots. A few of them who he put on the Second Circuit, I think, you know, wouldn't have passed an ethics or morals test, let alone agree with us on any political issues. And we have undone that in a record amount. We have put more people on the federal bench than any president in his first term for 50 years. The majority are women. The majority are people of color. They are all progressive. I've made sure of that. And they not only have demographic diversity, more women, more gays, more people of color, but they have professional diversity. In other words, not just partners in law firms or prosecutors. We have put in people, let me give you some examples. Myrna Perez, daughter of Mexican immigrants, one of the most nationally renowned voting rights in the country, is now on the Second Circuit. She's the first Latina since Sotomayor. Eunice Lee, head of the federal defenders, who defended people who needed help, African-American woman on the Second Circuit. We don't have it. Judge Ali Nathan just confirmed to the Second Circuit, the second open lesbian woman ever to be confirmed. You watch her. She's got Supreme Court potential, and she's very young. She's great. Nusrat Chowdhury, first Bangladeshi on the bench, head of the ACLU. Dale Ho, Asian American prominent voting rights lawyer. Nina Morrison, open lesbian woman, head of the Innocence Project, exonerating people who are wrongly convicted. We are changing the bench, and that's going to change for a lifetime. And then we've had and I'm also proud that I've appointed 3 progressive African Americans to be U.S. attorneys of the 4 U.S. attorneys in New York State. Damian Williams in the Southern District, that's Manhattan in the northern suburbs. First time there's an African American. Trini Ross, second time there's an African American woman as U.S. attorney. The first one I also appointed a while ago, Loretta Lynch. And Breon Peace, who's the U.S. attorney for you. He's a great, strong leader, and his father was Pastor Peace in one of the great Baptist churches in Bed-Stuy. So we've changed things around in terms of appointments, and we've gotten all 50 Democrats to go along with these. No easy thing. More things that we have accomplished. The American Rescue Plan brought so much money and did so much good. The child tax credit, which reduced poverty in half, which we now try to renew. We extended unemployment insurance when people were just lost their jobs, not only to to who usually got it, but gig workers, part-time workers, freelancers. We gave money to state and local governments that would have gone broke. We kept the subway. I kept the subway system going. No one wanted to give money to mass transit. They would have shut down the subway system. Now they have more money. They can actually start expanding the system. Money to restaurants, to the arts, so important in our community. They were dying. But the Save Our Stages Act, which I passed, not only opened up Broadway, but all these smaller arts venues, many of which are in the 52nd AD. And so much more. Rent relief for tenants, $2 billion, pension relief for the unions. We did a lot there. It was the most progressive piece of legislation in 50 years, and we got all 50 Democrats to vote for that. The Asian American Hate Crimes Bill, so much violence against so many people of Asian descent. And now in the RIF bill, there's lots of money for infrastructure, which you need in the 52nd AD, obviously, with the BQE and everything else going on. So there was money for that passed, more money for the MTA to expand, $2.6 billion to remediate lead pipes. I'm a bicycler. Now, I'm not a spandex guy. You don't see me going at 40 miles an hour, but I bicycle all over the city. We got $280 million for bike lanes and making New York much more bike friendly, like Amsterdam or other cities. And $7.5 billion to put electric chargers all over the city so people can drive electric cars. So that's some of the things we've done. We have a lot more to do. Make no mistake about it. I love New York. I love my job. I have more energy for this job, even though it's so difficult, than I've ever had, because it's so fucking important. And some of the goals, finding a path forward on BBB, getting public housing money for NYCHA, climate, it's one of the greatest problems we face. We're going to try to get a big bill done on climate to reduce the carbon that goes into the atmosphere by 2030 by 50%. That's even better than New York did. Legalizing marijuana and expunging the criminal records that so many people, particularly people of color, live with unfair because of the over-criminalization of marijuana. Universal pre-K, get rid of student debt. The president can do this on his own. Elizabeth Warren are pushing hard to get him to do this. You don't need legislation. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot we've done. There's a lot to do. I have total commitment, energy, and almost 24/7 activity to get all this done. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in that regard, and look forward to answering questions, and hope I earn your endorsement.
Thank you so much, Senator Schumer. So again, if folks have questions, please put the raised hand function up on your little Zoom call here. And we have time for, I think, two or three questions here. And Jesse, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi. It's an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for everything you do and for advocating so strongly for the city. I think my question is just on a practical level. Do you see, how do you see the voting rights bill getting passed? I know that you talked about your energy and commitment to doing it, but practically, are there senators that you think would be willing to
crossed the aisle? I saw Lisa Murkowski. She had an objection saying that the voting rights bill, that she believed in it, but one size fits all doesn't work for states like Alaska. I mean, is it something that can be accomplished?
So Jesse, let me just say this. First, there were all these, the Capitol Hill pundits. Don't call for a vote because you may not have the votes. Calling for a vote advanced things because everyone had to say where they were. And the people who voted against voting rights, which is so important, many of them are getting a lot of flack, both the two Democrats and the other Republicans. So now we are sitting down and seeing if we can do this in pieces and seeing which pieces we could pass. We're trying to go to the Lisa Murkowskis and the few others on the Republican side, but we're also continuing to work with Manchin and Sinema to try and get it done. We will get this done. I can feel it. I can just feel the heat that people have had on them by being forced to vote, by their reaction. And, again, the history of voting rights shows that if you keep at it, you win because everyone knows it's right. But we are working in pieces. We're working with different individuals on that. And you will see us go back to the floor again and again till we succeed. And we will succeed. We have to. It ain't easy. So much. Mitch McConnell, not my favorite human being, puts huge pressure on all of them to vote no, because he knows what, you see, it's so frustrating with how they do it. Not frustrating, it's angering, not frustrating. They say there's fraud, but who do they try to prevent from voting? Not everybody. People of color, young people. In New Hampshire, they want you to have to register your car and pay a license fee in New Hampshire if you're a college student to register to vote, because the college students are often the swing vote up there in New Hampshire. Young people, handicapped people, elderly people, but above all, people of color. That's who they're aiming this at. And it's despicable, it's racist. And we will fight till we win. But we're doing it in pieces. We're trying 5 different alternatives. And we may get one of them, who knows?
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. I see you have your hand up, and then we'll get to Kenan.
Hi, Senator.
Hi, Kara. Where are you? I got to look for the little yellow square.
I'm a little yellow square. This is really not on these issues. Many years ago, when you were on the Judiciary in the Congress and I was working there, we had the good fortune and honor to meet the Brady family and work on the Brady gun law.
Oh, Karen, it's you. Hi. Now I see.
It's me, Senator. We were so proud of that, and it was one of the first major steps ever to address gun violence. We just saw 2 more police gunned down in New York. It's happening again all over the country. I know it's not climate change or voting rights, and I know, but I'm wondering, I know this is near and dear to your heart, and we were together on this many decades ago. Do you see any path forward at all? And assuming we can win the midterm elections, can we ever see any real, tackling of this gun violence that is permeated this country?
When Karen worked in the Congress, she helped me. I'm the author of the Brady Law. It passed by 1 vote. 218 to 217, and it put in universal background checks, and tens of thousands of people are alive because of it. There were 2 big holes in that bill that we didn't know of at that point. One was online sales. We didn't have them. We didn't have online then. We didn't have the social media, so we have to do that and close that loophole. And the second was gun shows. In the old days, gun shows were nothing. They were benign. Gun enthusiasts would show their 1939 Derringer. But they've used this to get around the background check law. So we're trying to close these 2. Chris Murphy, our senator from Connecticut, has taken the mantle from me because I'm majority leader. So and to get this done. And we're trying to get it done as soon as possible. This is one issue where we've had some success with both Manchin and Sinema. So we're working at it. And there are 3 things that can be done even without the Congress. One is the administration can stop these ghost guns, where you buy the parts separately and then put together the gun. They can do that on their own. We're urging them to do that. I think they will. The second is they can really crack down on the gun runners who bring the guns up here. 95% of the guns used in crimes in New York come from out of New York State. And there's loads of things that law enforcement and Merrick Garland can do, and we're pushing him to do those. I think he's going to. The president's going to come up here to talk about some of those a week from today. And the third thing we can do is fully fund the ATF, which the Republicans under Trump stripped, and we're doing that in the budget. ATF is the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms that has jurisdiction, federal jurisdiction over guns.
Thank you so much. And it looks like we got time for one more question. Alyssa.
Hello, Senator.
Yes, thank you, Senator, for joining us. I have an anonymous question that came in through the chat. They want me to inquire what efforts you're making to diversify the federal district bench, and would you support the application for state level judges to become federal judges? The
answer is, I mentioned that the anonymous person probably couldn't stop their question. I mentioned what we did. More people of color. I am so proud. I appointed more people of color to the bench, more gay and lesbian people to the bench, more Asian American to the bench than anybody has. And so it's a passion of mine. And we're getting more. And by the way, if there are good state judges who qualify, absolutely. So tell Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous that I'm on the same page with them.
Got it. Thank you so much.
And Tyler, can I solicit your son or daughter there for a vote of support? I see.
I think, yeah, she said, who's that? And I said, so now she knows. We got Senator Schumer here. Ella, say hi.
My grandson used to know the word Trump. He's 3 years old. He lives in downtown Brooklyn. He now knows the word Joe Manchin.
Oh, man. Good night. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Senator Schumer, for joining us today.
Can I say one nice thing about Jimani, who you had on? He and I were at the waterfront by Industry City. Together we worked and just got a big federal grant to make us the place where we're going to assemble windmills, for wind energy, the biggest in the country. And it's going to employ 400 unemployed people from Sunset Park, poor people, immigrants, in good paying jobs. It's a huge breakthrough. And Jimani and I worked on that. So he deserves a lot of credit. He got me into it.
That is great. I did not know that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so, on behalf of the club, thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And I learned a lot today.
Thanks for your persistence. Thanks for your caring.
Of course. Thank you. All right. I think now we have the pleasure of being joined by, thank you in advance for your patience, Congressman Tom Suozzi. We're a couple minutes behind here, but Congressman Tom Suozzi has represented New York's 3rd Congressional District on Long Island and Queens since 2017. He previously served as the mayor of Glen Cove, New York, and as Nassau County Executive from 2002 to 2009, and candidate for governor of New York this year. Congressman Suozzi, welcome to IND.
Hey, we'll give you, Tyler, thanks so much. Hi, IND. Nice to see everybody. I want you to know I worked in Brooklyn Heights when I worked in Cadman Plaza. I clerked for the Chief Judge of the Eastern District. I was living in Manhattan at the time. And it's great to see everybody. And I'll tell you quickly about my background. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My father was born in Italy. My mom's Irish and English. I was trained as an accountant, worked for Arthur Anderson and Company. Then I clerked for the Chief Judge of the Eastern District. Then I worked for a big law firm, Sherman and Sterling. I was the mayor of Glen Cove for 8 years. I was a county executive of Nassau County for 8 years. I ran for governor against Eliot Spitzer. Didn't turn out very well for me. Didn't turn out very well for Eliot Spitzer either, as we know. I lost my reelection for county executive in Nassau County by 386 votes out of 250,000 people in a wave year. The guy that beat me got convicted of bribery and corruption. So the rule is you can run against me, but if you beat me, your life is doomed after that. So you don't want to beat me in the race. Then I was in the private sector again at Lazard and the law firm. And now I've been in Congress for the past 5 years. I'm on Ways and Means, and I'm leading the fight in the country for the state and local tax deduction. All the stuff that Chuck talked about, I worked on as well. And we're so lucky we have Chuck Schumer as the majority leader, because New York State is losing influence in the country. When I was born in 1962, I'm 59, we had 45 members of Congress. Today we have 27 members of Congress, and it's going down to 26 with the new census. and it's going to keep on going down unless we figure out how to make New York State more attractive. So it's very attractive where you live, but we got to figure out how to make the whole state attractive for people to come and live here. I think when people look at the governor's race, they're going to look at 3 issues. One, who has the proven executive experience? I just told you my bio. I know how to run government. I got trained at a little small level at a local government as mayor. I ran the biggest county, one of the biggest counties in the country, bigger than 11 states. I turned it around from the worst run county in America to the A ratings and all of its bond ratings by the time I left. I've got the proven executive experience. I know how to run government and I know how to get things done in government. Number 2 is I'm a common sense Democrat. I'll work with anybody. I'll work with progressives. I'll work with moderates. I'll work with Democrats. I'll work with Republicans. I'll work with anybody to get things done, to try and solve problems and make people's lives better. That's what I've done throughout my career. That's what I will always do. I'm not going to go pander to the left, and I'm not going to back down to the right. I'm going to work with people to get things done and try and solve problems. And I've laid out a very clear agenda for what I want to do as governor. I want to lower taxes in New York State. I think I'm all for raising taxes at the federal level, but people are leaving New York State in droves. We lost 300,000 people in the last year alone, more than any other state in the United States of America. We have a big property tax and income tax problem in New York State. I want to fight crime and address the crime problem that we have. I want to preserve and protect the environment, and I want to help our troubled schools. I'm very passionate about the troubled schools especially. So as I said, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I was the New York State Environmentalist of the Year for all of New York State by the New York League of Conservation Voters. I was the New York Immigration Coalition's, New York City Immigration Coalition's Person of the Year for the work that I did opening a Shape Up Center on Long Island, the first one on the East Coast of the United States of America back in the 90s, and kicking ICE out of Nassau County when I was county executive. I have a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood. And I have an F rating from the NRA. And on any type of rating you can think of for Democrats, I've got a pretty good rating. So the bottom line is that I would love to get your support, and I want to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I see, like we've done before, if you have a question, please throw your little hand raised sign up there, just like Kenan did. Kenan, I see you have a question.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. So I thought it was interesting you mentioned that we're losing influence federally because we're not growing as fast as other states. And you specifically cited the affordability crisis that's here. But today you said that you opposed legislation that would enable the creation of potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of units of housing across the state, even though we're in the middle of a housing and homelessness crisis. So you specifically cited the effect in suburban communities. So I just want to know, what do you mean by that, and what are you trying to keep out of the suburbs?
Well, the governor has proposed, and other people in the state legislature have proposed, that they would take away local zoning control from the city and from local towns and villages and cities throughout the state, and require that everyone be allowed to create an accessory dwelling unit. That's against local control. That's the end of single-family neighborhoods. And that does not provide affordability either. Studies have proven that that does not provide affordability. And I'm totally 100% unalterably opposed to the state mandating that local governments lose their local zoning control, and they're mandated to create districts that allow accessory dwelling units. Listen, I'm very, very interested in addressing affordable housing. I'm a huge advocate in Congress in providing money for New York State. I'm sure Schumer talked about it before, to subsidize affordable housing. I believe that we need to convert a lot of properties that are office buildings into housing, and to require that big pieces of it be affordable housing as part of it as well. I've worked to try and promote transit-oriented development in suburban areas and anywhere, so we could go up instead of out to try and create more housing as well. I'm in favor of programs like 421A and other types of things like that, but I don't like when it's a giveaway to developers, and I don't like that union wages aren't required for the construction of those properties as they're currently proposing. So I'm very interested in addressing the issues of homelessness. When I was in law school, I supervised a homeless shelter sleeping overnight, and worked in a soup kitchen and got an award for creating a volunteer program to work at homeless shelters. I think that we have 15,000 vacant apartments in New York State right now, in New York City right now, because of the way that we've changed some of the rent regulations that are encouraging landlords to not actually utilize their vacant properties because they can't recapture the investment in converting rent stabilized properties once people leave into affordable housing. There's a big opportunity there to make it affordable housing where the developers can, it can't be just the tenants and not the landlords. It's got to be the tenants and the landlords together and find a happy medium to try and figure out how we can create more affordable housing for people. If we just say it's, every landlord is bad, and there are bad landlords, we need to go after bad landlords, but it's not that every landlord is bad. You got to find a balance between the two. So I'm a common sense, get things done Democrat, and I'm interested in trying to address these problems. Let me just say on the homelessness issue very quickly, 75% of the people in jail have a drug, alcohol, or mental health issue. 50% of the people on Rikers Island have a learning disability. Most poverty, homelessness, domestic violence, other issues that we have that are dysfunctional in society are related to drugs, alcohol, and mental health. Those problems emerge at young ages in life. And if you look at third grade test scores in the best school district and the most at-risk school district, they're very similar. But by eighth grade in the good school districts, the kids are soaring and the kids in the at-risk school districts have fallen off the face of the earth. We need to figure out how to bring all of our social services that we have that are funded by federal, state, and local governments and not-for-profits and bring them into our schools to try and help young children at young ages before their problems become big problems that result in their lives being ruined and the dysfunction that occurs in society. We spend a lifetime, Bishop Desmond Tutu used to say, we spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and stop people from falling in the river in the first place. I know how to make government work. I know how to run things. I created a thing in Nassau County when I was county executive called No Wrong Door, where I took social services, health, mental health, veterans, seniors, youth, physically challenged, drug and alcohol. I put them in one building instead of 5 separate buildings. And I said, when you come in for a welfare check or for SNAP or for a housing subsidy, we want to find out what's going on in your life. Are you a veteran? Do you have post-traumatic stress disorder? Is there a drug problem? Is there a mental health problem? Are you physically challenged? Did something happen in your life? Let's try and solve your problem and try and make your life better. And it'll actually save money in the process. We need to run government better. Too often, the chief executives we elect into these jobs are lawyers who make a good speech, as opposed to somebody who knows how to run things and make the $220 billion enterprise that is New York State government run more effectively. It's bigger than any Fortune 500 company. I'm a proven executive. I'm a common sense Democrat, and I've got a clear vision as to what needs to be done to turn our state around.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Greg, and then I'll read Lynn's question in the chat next. But go ahead, Greg.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Congressman, thanks for joining us. I'm a 10-year teacher and college professor. I'm also a member of the U of T Delegate Assembly and a member of our political action team. And I'm wondering, if you were to become governor, how would you amend the state charter law, which currently says that if charter schools are interested in unionizing, they have to get the approval of the entire network that governs the charter school, instead of allowing an individual charter school and its members to unionize on their own. Would you support that change to the charter school law to allow individual charter schools to unionize?
Yes, I'm a very pro-union person. I'm the chairman of the Labor Caucus in Congress. I will always be pro-labor. I'll do everything I can to support unions any way that I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Karen, I'll get to you next. I just saw Lynn's question in the chat, and Lynn Hill, our recording secretary, she writes, you have told us why you would make a good candidate, but what would make you a better candidate than the current governor? Why do we need a change?
So I think that, as I said, I have proven executive experience, and no other candidate running in this race has proven executive experience. We saw that with the current governor, with the way she managed COVID just recently. I called for a comprehensive plan on December 1st. I saw the number of cases rise from 3,400 to 6,800 cases from the end of October to the end of November. So right after Thanksgiving, I said, listen, we're about to have the Christmas holidays coming up, New Year's coming up. We're going to have more gatherings. We're going to have more holiday gatherings. We have Delta as a problem. We just heard about this new thing called Omicron. We need to have a comprehensive plan to address COVID. And I laid out that plan, which was mainly focused on marketing people to get vaccinated. Forget about the people that won't get vaccinated at all. Just forget about that for a second. We have people that have been vaccinated once or twice that haven't received boosters or haven't received their second shot. We should be marketing every single day vaccinations. And I said that back on December 1st. I said we had to double the number of testing sites back to where it was during the pandemic, because this is coming. This is a holiday surge is coming. We have to double the number of sites. We need to set up another system where we say this is a red zone, this is an orange zone, this is a yellow zone, this is a green zone. We need to flood resources into the places that are a problem. So I talked about the need for a comprehensive plan. So that's what you need to do when you're an executive, and you need to take different voices from different people. Your health department people are going to say one thing, your economic development people are going to say something else, your political consultants will say something, the hospitals will say something, small businesses will say something. Everybody's going to have a different voice. The job of the executive is to take all those different voices, lay out a comprehensive plan, and then sell it to the people. The governor laid out a mask mandate. She said it's a mask mandate on a Friday, and it's going to take place on a Monday. But she never told people how it was part of a plan or how it would work, and she didn't sell it to the elected officials. 30 out of 60 counties, over 60 counties in New York State, said they're not going to enforce the mask mandate. So proven executive experience makes a big difference. I've talked very clearly what my agenda is. Crime is a very big issue for me. I don't like the fact that the Manhattan DA said he's not going to enforce, prosecute resisting arrest, or he's going to prosecute armed robberies as misdemeanors. I stood up right away and said that you can't do that. You can't be that the law is one thing in Brooklyn, but it's different in Manhattan. It can't be that the law is one thing in Queens, but it's different in Manhattan. The job of a district attorney is to enforce the law. If you want to change the law, then run for state legislature like Zelnor Myrie or Joanne Simon and go up and change the law at the state level. That's not the job of a district attorney. So I would call together the 5 district attorneys and say, listen, we need to find some common ground here and set up some standards. But if you're not going to enforce the law, I have the power as governor to either remove you or put the attorney general in to actually enforce the law. So that's another example of where we just have a radical difference. And quite frankly, taxes is a major problem as well. We have this huge amount of money that Chuck Schumer was just talking about we brought into the state. The state has a surplus for the first time in ever. For years ahead. We should be planning as to how to figure out how to make this state have some structural balance for the long-term future and not just giving away this money. We need a plan that'll make the state more attractive so that people want to be here. And it's not that, it's not about our individual neighborhood. It's about the whole state as a whole. We are losing influence in the country because of the fact that we are losing relative population to the rest of the country. And if we don't address the taxes, if we don't address the crime, if we don't help our troubled schools, we're not going to make it for the long term. So I think that I'm very different from the other candidates in my executive experience and my vision for the future. And
Awesome,
my common sense approach.
I think we have just time for just one more question. Karen, I see you had your hand up.
Hi, Tom. I've known you for a long time. I was born in Glen Cove Hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
but
did I.
I'm an old Nassau girl. But listen, you're a member of Ways and Means, one of the most powerful committee in the House.
Yeah.
You're one of the last Democrats outside of Charlie Rangel. We need you in Congress. You just talked about trying to gain people back in New York and changing taxes. Well, the way to do it in Ways and Means is with the Internal Revenue Code. You've got great ideas, and it's all really more on a national platform. I'd frankly like to see you stay in Ways and Means in Congress, and rather than lose your seat to a Republican. For decades, Nassau County was represented by Norm Lent and all of the Republicans. You're one of the first Democrats, literally outside of Miss Maloney, whoever came along the line. I don't want to lose you. I think, honestly, sir, I'd love for you to stay and work on Ways and Means and do something about the tax reform code that helps New York and talk about all the things that would make it a better life, because that way I think you really have a golden platform.
Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. And I've led the fight in the Congress on the issue of SALT, the state and local tax deduction, because we really got punched in the gut by the Trump administration when they capped it at $10,000, and that was a real body blow to New York. And I got it increased to $80,000 in the House. We passed it in the House, but it's died in the Senate along with Manchin and Sinema and Build Back Better. And I know that we'll never get all of the state and local tax deduction back. It's one of the reasons that I'm running for governor, is because we have to address the tax problem in our state, because we'll never get it solved the way we need it solved at the federal level, because we have not only the Republicans against us, but even some of our progressive friends are against us. I love being in Congress. Hakeem Jeffries had a similar point to what you said, Karen. He said, listen, you have the closest relationship of the entire New York delegation with the next mayor of New York City. I was the only one who came out early for Eric Adams and worked hard for him. Yeah. He said, you're close to hopefully the next Speaker of the House. We are hoping Hakeem will be the next Speaker of the House. He says, you're on the inside circle with the next Speaker of the House. He said, you're on Ways and Means. You're leading the fight for SALT. He says, you got great relationships with your Democratic colleagues. You got more relationships with Republicans than most of us. You may not want to risk it on a long shot to run for governor. And it was very impactful to me. And I talked to my wife and I talked to my political consultants. And a week later, Andrew Cuomo announced that he was resigning. And I said, listen, I've got to do this. Our country is in so much trouble with the fractured nature of our debate. Our state is in so much trouble because we are losing influence, and crime and taxes and their troubled schools need to be addressed. And our Democratic Party's in trouble, quite frankly, because we're not speaking directly to the people about the issues that they really care about. We're talking about too much stuff that's out here instead of the bread and butter things that people are concerned about every single day. And you read every article about what's happening in the Democratic Party and how the US population is reacting to it. And we are losing influence, and we'll continue to lose influence as Democrats unless we wake up and start talking in common sense ways about the problems that people face in real life. And so I love politics. I love government. I've devoted my life to it. But this is too important. And I am risking it to run for governor because I truly believe that politics is a noble profession. And if you can get people to work together with each other to solve problems and take this big, huge structure that's government, you can really make the world a better place to live in. And I feel that I could have tremendous influence for the national debate, for the state of New York, and for our Democratic Party. And I could help Mayor Adams. Mayor Adams asked me to be one of his deputy mayors. And I said, I could do a lot more for you if I was governor of New York State. So that's what my goal is to do. And I would love to have your support in my quest to do so. I think it's really existential for the future of our state. And it's important to our party as well. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate the time. You're wonderful people that so many of you would spend this much time listening to elected officials like this all night long, and that you pay this much attention. And, politics only works when the people are involved. And we are so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to you for the time that you spend listening to me, of course, but to also the other elected officials and the work that you do on important issues. We can make our state and our country much better. We just need to keep on pushing. So thanks very much, everybody.
Of course. Thank you so much, Congressman Tom Suozzi. And thanks for joining IND.
Thank you, Tyler.
Night. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I have one more. I think I'm going to the Central Democrats now. So I'll see you guys later.
Questionable characters over there. Watch yourself. All right. Well, I think we have one more guest this evening. A candidate for New York governor, Mr. Paul Nichols, a Jamaica Queens-based attorney who most recently served as chief counsel for New York State Senator Leroy Comrie. Paul, Mr. Nichols, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know we're a little behind, so thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, Tyler, for saving the best for last. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Danielle, and thank you for all of the independent neighborhood Democrats, again, the elected leaders that are on. It's wonderful to be here, to be able to speak and to be able to share. My name is Paul Nichols again, and I'm running for governor of the state of New York. I try to convince my mom to come on these Zooms because that means there will be at least one person on the line who would know who I am. But nevertheless, that is the strength of this particular candidacy, where for many years, the folks that we know, the names that we know, the people that we've turned to have essentially led New York State into the position where we are, where New York State, by a lot of measures, is the second most expensive state in the entire country. New York City is the most expensive city in the entire country. All of the measures that we look where folks had dreams of being homeowners have seen those dreams turn into nightmares as property taxes have crushed them and killed them. And folks that thought renting was a nice option have now been squeezed by the burden of rents that are outrageous, that are making it realistically unrealistic for folks to stay in the state of New York. So we're here to say that accountability matters. And you've heard folks that have been leaders in the city, leaders in the county, leaders in the state that have to be accountable for the place that New York's in. We can act like New York's doing well and that everything is fine, but regular New Yorkers, they're hurting. And as the congressman said, we're losing influence because people are leaving the state. So we're essentially saying that we have to do something different. We have to do something new. And so who's Paul Nichols? Paul Nichols, I'm an attorney. I started working in politics at the age of 19, actually for an upstate Republican, Senator John Bonasich. Then I transitioned and went to law school, worked in corporate law in the private sector, then came back to work into politics as a chief counsel for then the Senate Majority Leader, Malcolm Smith. And from there, went as chief of staff for Senator James Sanders Jr., took a break from politics to go be a leader in my faith, house of worship, and then also the director of a housing community center in the New York Housing Authority. And then went back to be chief counsel for, as was mentioned, Senator Leroy Comrie. But one of my most important traits is I stand a big whopping 5'6.5" tall. Now, what that means is that I represent the little guy. The little guys that have been overlooked for many years, the little guy whose voices have gone unheard, who haven't been represented in those important rooms that I've been in. I'm one of the few people that could say that they've worked in all three of the conferences in the state legislature. The independent Democrats, whatever that is, and the Republicans and the Democrats, being able to see issues from all sides and being able to bring a regular person's perspective. This is the movement that is going to fundamentally push and challenge the state of New York to turn to different things than what we searched to in our leaders. We've gone to the billionaires and we've gone to the millionaires. We've seen what that's gotten us. We've gone to the career politicians who are playing musical chairs, moving from one office to the next, and we see what happens. And we've gone to those that have had legacies. And so this is essentially a time where we say, if we want different, we have to do different. The 1% has led us for a long time. Let's get one of the 99% to lead the way. Again, thank you for the time. My name is Paul Nichols. And again, I tell folks that Nichols in 2022 will stand for change, aptly named for this year. I'll take any questions if there are any. Thank you again, Tyler.
Of course. Thank you so much. Just like we've been doing before, if anybody has a question, please feel free to pop the little raised hand function in the chat, or rather the whatever you would call that box. Hal, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you for coming, but I have yet to hear really what your agenda is. What are you going to actually do for the state? In particular, what's different about your agenda than the current incumbent governor or Mr. Suozzi, whom we just heard? What's distinctive about your agenda, and actually what is your agenda?
Thank you so much, Hal. The agenda is very simple. It's focusing in a real way on the real problems. The first thing that we've got to do is we've got to get homes realistically affordable. What distinguishes me from, for example, from Kathy Hochul? She's the current governor, and in her State of the State speech, she mentioned we're going to do 100,000 units of affordable housing, which sounds good, but let's put that in context, because the state comptroller's most recent report that tracks housing in the state of New York has the housing crisis, where they mention and they measure the amount of residents that have a situation of cost burdenship, meaning they're spending more than 30% of their income in keeping a roof over their head. That is 2.9 million residents in the state. And of those 2.9 million, you have half of those that are severely cost burdened, meaning they're spending more than 50% of their income in just keeping a roof over their head. Now, to put that number in context, the amount of people that tested positive for COVID since the start of the pandemic is 3 million people. So we've got a pandemic in our hands, and we have the current governor that stands in front of the state and say, we're going to address less than 4% of that problem. And that's the issue that we've been seeing with the leaders. I've got a very outside of the box way in which we're going to address it, where we need to take a look at maybe bringing the state into the private market to be able to bring costs down, to extend 421 to bring costs down for developers, to be able to roll those costs over to regular folks. It's an agenda that's based on the economic health of people. From the background that I've come from, we have to bring down housing costs. We have to be able to responsibly raise minimum wage that doesn't burden our small businesses. To treat minimum wage as a one size fits all and says small mom and pop shops can do the same thing as Fortune 500 companies, it's not smart and it's not wise. And the reason that we are able to do this, you know, the media makes a big deal of the governor and others hauling in $20 million in the recent filings. That just tells me right away we're getting more of the same, because as wonderful as Kathy Hochul is as a person, these folks aren't paying $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 because they like her. It's pay to play all over again. It's access to those that are at 1% and those that are at the bottom. Our agenda doesn't make it into the rooms because the folks that I'm representing and come from, they don't have $15,000, $20,000 to lay out. Often our agenda goes to the back. So it's a 5-point plan. Housing's got to come down. Economic health comes to the forefront. Being able to have a one-state solution that we do things like high-speed rail, where we see in China, you can connect cities that are miles and miles apart and get folks that are living in upstate New York that would like to work in downstate and get them here in 20 and 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and we can spread out the state. So it's treating the state as one, economic development in all parts of the state, economic health, housing affordability, and being able to create real opportunities. Again, safety, real safety, but going to the heart of what makes people safe. Thank you, Hal, for the question.
Thank you for your response.
Of course. And thank you so much. Any other outstanding questions? I know that was a very good question, Hal, because that sort of elicited a very good response. Great. Well, thank you so much.
Wait, I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We talked a lot tonight about gun violence, particularly as there have been several incidents this year. The governor is put out a plan, and they have a task force going. Would you handle this issue differently? And if so, how?
Yes, absolutely, Danielle. Again, thank you for the question. We've been doing the same things for the last 10, 15 years. We've been, again, having worked in the state legislature, worked in the community, we've seen hundreds of thousands of gun buybacks. We've seen task force after task force. We know these things marginally work, and they work on a temporary basis. Coming from where I've come, and from South Jamaica, and a very depressed part of the areas where, economic opportunity has often been lacking, there's a direct correlation between economics and crime. And we haven't really seen that aspect of it addressed, to the point where we work very closely with gun violence organizations, cure violence organizations, that they say to us all the time as we've been campaigning, Paul, we're able to get the guns out of the young people's hands, but we don't have anything to replace it with. We don't have opportunities for them. So they end up going right back to it because that's all they know. Some of these aren't mental health issues, which again, that's an easy scapegoat to throw under the bus. But some of these go bare bone economics, where you have folks that are going into drugstores and going into the Michael Rappaport, put online, folks stealing from Rite Aid. And there's an economic issue there. And if we don't get economic health to the forefront, and then this is a term that I'm proudly coining, economic health, where we talked about physical health. And, I need to do a better job of getting my physical health a little bit better, some more jogging in the mornings. We talked about mental health, and that's coming to the forefront and being important. But economic health leads to distress. It leads to depression. It leads to crime. And to address that, because we talk about gun violence, and we talk about getting 2,000 guns off the street, and we talk about closing the pipeline. You often hear a talking point. I've never seen a gun walk up to anybody by itself and shoot anyone. There's something fundamentally behind that that's leading to the violence that's leading to the crime. You know, we just saw the loss of, you know, two NYPD officers, which is heartbreaking. But there was a domestic violence issue that was underneath that. And so we've got to get to the core. We're doing the same things over and over again. There's an old saying that if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. And so this candidacy is something absolutely different. It's outside the box. It's meant to ruffle some feathers a little bit. It's meant to make some folks upset, but only in saying that we've got to do things differently. That's not political, that's not partisan, but it's about people. That's the only way we're going to see true change. And so this candidacy is about returning power back to the people. Thank you so much for the question, Daniel.
Great, and thank you so much, Mr. Nichols, for joining IND this evening. We really appreciate you sticking around and responding to all the questions that our members threw at you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. And again, I really appreciate each and every one. Again, we're just challenging everybody to take a look at the new guy.
There you go, perfect. Well, we certainly will. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and I actually would be remiss. Mr. Senator Zellner Myrie has been here the entirety of this meeting. I wanted to give him, first of all, a second shout out now that more folks are on the call. But Senator Myrie, is there anything you'd like to just touch base on before we break off into our sort of endorsement discussion?
It's been an incredibly long evening, so I will let you guys get to deliberations. Just wanted to be a part and to listen in.
Great, thank you so much. We do appreciate it sticking around for our discussion. So, folks, now just to give a quick little lay of the land, and my team of folks that are actually making things move behind the scenes will correct me if I err here. But basically, if folks are members in good standing, which is not a moral judgment, it's a description of your dues paying status and your attendance. If you have attended enough meetings to vote and you're eligible to vote based on your dues paying, we will now, I think, Seamus, maybe in 1 minute, once I explain this,
we'll certainly move everyone over. Just give me a few.
Oh my God, he's already doing it. Okay, I wasn't trying to rush you. I was actually, if anything, maybe trying to slow you down a little bit. But folks will start to move into the voting room. This is meant to sort of imitate what we did before in the pre-COVID world. If you'll recall, we actually sort of asked all the non-members to leave. Here we are affirmatively moving into a different room. And then we'll have some opportunities for discussion of the races, and our corresponding secretary will email everybody who's eligible to vote a OPA ballot or an OPA vote ballot. Steve, what's up?
I just wanted to sort of remind, because I just took a look at the ballot again. We really only have one.
Oops, I think you became muted. I didn't do it.
Sorry. Am I back on now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. We only, looking at the ballot, just to sort of, not to short circuit, but just to make everyone aware and focus, we only have one contested election to discuss tonight. And that's the governor's. Everything else is uncontested. So I think we should just sort of, when we get there, when we walk over to that room, figuratively, we focus on that.
Definitely. That is a good idea. I think what we'll do is cross that bridge immediately upon coming to it.
I think
so
also
I guess
it's important for people who are interested in voting for state members and Congress members. Those are going to be voted on next meeting, right, guys? So if you think something's missing from your ballot, we're only voting on a segment of members. So don't think your ballot's
right. Yeah, just a correction. Next time, the February 17th meeting, we will be voting on state Senate and state assembly. Tonight, we're voting on statewide offices and congressional and Senate.
And judges are next week too.
Yes, those judge and district leaders. Not next week, next month, the 17th
next
of February.
Next month. All right, it's been a long meeting. We're killing it up here. So I guess Seamus invited me to join the discussion room. So I'm gonna go over to the other room here as well. If you're not a member of good standing or you don't get moved over to the room, the meeting is kind of over. We're not going to come back to this Zoom room. So thank you very much for attending. If you have trouble and for whatever reason you don't find yourself in the room you think you should be in, please reach out to Jesse Capel. Seamus, don't move Jesse over if you haven't already.
Jesse, just like ignore the invite then.
Okay, yeah, Jesse, stick around in the other room until everybody's all set up, okay? Okay, thanks everybody. I'm gonna move over now.
Play some like do 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 do. Might be annoying.
Yeah, I probably create news one rooms. Vicky, I know I'm on this one. Just 1 second. So I think I have to create a second room or something to fix it.
No worries.
Or I think I have to.
I see it now. So it's called discussion room, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can join it. Got it.
Jesse, good evening.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, you should be getting an invite from Seamus. Are you not? Just yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just hang out to it.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Great.
Hi, so there's someone here that's first name or with the screen name Mark. Is that Mark Shames?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna get right on it. Hi, Gary. I'm not sure we have you. Vito, you should be moved shortly.
Hi.
Hi, Gary. You're muted. Vito, you should be moved. Vito? Hey. You're muted.
Oops. Where it says more, go to breakout rooms. And then just where it says discussion room, click join.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yes, since you said no, originally you couldn't do it. So I was going to stop the streaming, I think.